All right, we are live on a Tuesday. Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday to those of you that are tuning in. This is DraftKings The Slate. We are live on YouTube, Twitch, and also on the DraftKings DK Nation Twitter page. Brendan Glasheen, your host, joined by two of our DraftKings contributors, content specialists. One of the two is a manager. I will let you do your search on Twitter to find out who that might be. Matt Meiselman, and coming to us from the DraftKings offices in the DraftKings pod studio, Shirag Hira. Hi, Shirag. You sound good.
Thank you. I am super happy to be here and excited that I won't be here next week.
But hopefully whenever we do the slate again, I'll be doing them moving forward from the pod.
Okay. As you said that, Shirag, we lost your video. So please come back.
Really?
Yep. Here I am setting up the whole fancy schmancy pod studio, and
it was really good for a few seconds there.
It looked great. Yeah, I mean, we can hear you. You're like voice of God. It's
I
good.
mean, yes, that too. But let me go bang this the thingamajigger over here to get it back.
Okay, that's good luck with that. We'll look to get Shirag back as soon as we can. Matt Meiselman, if you've been tuning into this show in any capacity since basically since the playoffs started, Matt has been not a backer because he's a homer, but he's been backing the Celtics to make a significant push to the championship, and that path has now hit a real roadblock because the Celtics are now down 3-2 going home. Golden State is a win away from a fourth championship. In what is it now? 6 years for Golden State? If they win this championship, it would be 4 and 6.
Yeah, 4 and 6.
Wow. Okay, 4 and 6 if they close it out on Thursday night. So we've got a bit away till Game 6. Still a couple days to process what's happening. But Matt Meiselman, your reaction to last night and what to think now before Game 6 on Thursday?
Well, we talked a little yesterday before the game about Tatum's health, and I am still quite concerned about the way he's shooting the ball and also his just overall level of aggressiveness with whatever's going on with his neck and shoulder, whatever nerve issue seems to be there. So that's my main concern. I mean, obviously the main concern is they're down 3-2 in the series, but as far as impediments to the Celtics playing to their potential, it seems like Tatum's not 100%. And I guess like people can hear that and think of it as an excuse, but like we have mentioned this over the course of the series. Like, it's just one of the things we're not sure about this late in the playoffs. Guys are playing through stuff and you just never really know until they tell you at the end of the series. Like, we just saw this with the Rangers. They got knocked out. And now we're getting all this analysis from the players saying like, oh, here's what was really wrong with me. They just don't want to say it until the season ends. They don't want to tip their hand to the other team. So I don't feel like Tatum's 100%. I do still feel like the Celtics are better than the Warriors despite that, though. It's just now they have to win 2 games. And, yeah, like, it's not so shocking that Game 5 went the way that it did, but the Celtics really missed a major opportunity in Game 4. I think that's why we were so depressed during yesterday's show. Just like, that was the chance to really put a stranglehold on the series, and they didn't take advantage. And then 2 of the final 3 games were going to be Warriors home games. So I do expect the Celtics to win Game 6. I think they should be favored by more than 4 points in Game 6.
Wow.
Maybe even 5 or 6 points. And I'd be pretty surprised if they lose the game, especially with Scott Foster officiating, because as we've come to realize over the course of the last couple rounds specifically, the refs are having a major impact on the results of these games. Like the beginning of the fourth quarter last night was just ridiculous with the sequence with Marcus Smart plays where it seemed like there were 4 or 5 consecutive calls. And then not to mention like the last play of the first half where the ball clearly went out of bounds off Steph Curry. So who knows if Scott Foster can help us out, but I do think the Celtics should win the game regardless. It's just going into Golden State for a potential Game 7 is going to be tough, you know, even if we already assume they win Game 6, which obviously is not a lock. So I'm not optimistic, but this series obviously isn't over yet, right? Like if I had to put a number on it, I still think there's like a 30% chance the Celtics win it.
You're sure Foster is officiating Game 6?
I think so. Or
Oh.
maybe that's, you know what? I could be wrong. It could just be Twitter just hoping. It could
Hoping.
be-
I haven't seen any
it
official
could be
announcement.
hoping.
That's it was news
so
to me.
You may be right. You may be right.
Okay.
I think that would be the guy you'd pick, right? If you had to pick a ref to be in the game.
Well,
So maybe it's just that. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense to me, but I mean, yeah, I haven't seen anything official, but your logic makes sense. I mean,
I
my
fell for
only,
the Twitter hype, it seems. That's probably what happened.
my only disagreement with what you just said is I don't even look at the officiating. Look, in the first quarter, was there like the Gary Payton like falling down thing? Like, come on, what are we doing calling that a shooting foul? But the Celtics got 31 free throws to Golden State's
They
15.
didn't make them. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a bigger problem than the officiating. Sure, the missed free throws were, and the turnovers are just. Yeah, I would agree. The refs were not the main reason they lost, but they were a contributing factor. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think we have Chirag back.
Hey.
I mean, you've heard you the whole time. The audio's good. It's just the your video's
Oh.
back, which is good.
The next time that happens, I'll make sure to mute the mic when I finagle with this box.
Yeah.
It's
You
okay.
can
We
hear-
didn't
you hear
really
me
hear you
smack
because
it?
I was yelling a bunch of nonsense while you were making whatever noise you were making. So it's all
No,
good.
I was listening to you. It was like, man, this is like Scott Foster is like a cult hero in Boston. Think about it. Like, literally, everybody. And you're not the first person to say this. I'm in Boston walking around the office, and people were like, yo, I hope Scott Foster's reffing tomorrow because that's what's weird. I was like, wait, you legitimately are banking a championship, your final game of the season, on refereeing? I mean, sure, it's been up and down, left and right, whatever you want to call it, but make your free throws if you want that then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I that might be more of a problem with the league and the sport, that people are this aware of Foster and what he is capable of. I mean, that's really what the core issue is. But yeah,
but there were a couple plays that were like the Marcus Smart getting pushed by Klay Thompson to create a wide open three. Like, that's inexcusable. Like, how are they missing calls like that?
Matt,
Yeah.
do you watch Marcus Smart flop?
No, I know, and maybe that's reputation.
Does he really fly 20 feet? That looked like a scene in Fast and Furious 11.
If they wanted to call that the way they do it in hockey, I mean, kind of. If they wanted to call that the way they do in hockey, where it's a foul on both guys, one guy gets a foul for, you know, the actual initiating of the contact, and the other guy in hockey would be a penalty for diving. Like, okay, but he shouldn't be able to just shoot a wide open three off of that. I don't know. It was bad. But the Celtics also got a bit unlucky in the game. The shot at the end of the quarter from Jordan Poole to start the fourth, where they ended up having a lead because of that. Like, I did not feel good going into the fourth quarter after that shot went in. Call it momentum, call it whatever, but like the fact that put them ahead, I was concerned. And also, what was so weird about the game was the Celtics made their run with Curry in, and then the Warriors made their push to start the fourth with Curry on the bench.
Right.
Which has just been such a weird thing. That's happened in a couple games in this series, but it was obviously much bigger in game 5, where Curry didn't even make a three for the entire game. Like, they really shut him down, which I guess is also why Klay Thompson was so open the whole time, because the Celtics defense was paying so much attention to Curry. But it was a strange game overall. Like, I don't know. It's hard to have any coherent thoughts about it, honestly, because one, it's very frustrating, and two, it was just the way the game went was just so unusual.
Yep. I mean, a lot of things, though, that... Go ahead.
Also,
Go ahead,
that tech on Ime, I felt it was a little quick. They're trying to, like, wrangle him in or whatever he was doing. It's just like, what's going on, man? Like, I don't know. I'm not a Celtics homer. I'm obviously a Lakers fan. I don't want to see the Celtics win. But in terms of depth and the way these two teams are playing, are you telling me that the whole series basically swung on Gary Payton's availability? Like,
yes.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yes.
Guys,
we've been talking about this all year, though. Gary Payton might be the Warriors' second best player.
I think you're both crazy. They turned the ball over 18 times.
Why do you think that happened, though? Gary Payton is like the best defensive guard in the league.
No. Watch back some of those turnovers. Those are self-inflicted.
I know some of them were.
And we lost
I don't know what
again.
percentage. There were a good... Okay, well, until Sherrod comes back. But
am I gone again?
Yeah.
Your audio is still here, but your video isn't.
Oh gosh. All right, let me go smack the box again. Sorry.
Thanks, Sherrod. No, I think you're right that the Celtics had many unforced errors, for sure. But Jaylen Brown trying to drive on Gary Payton is a disaster of a matchup. Like we said this before the series started. It was actually my biggest concern for the series for Boston, was specifically the matchup of Brown trying to play hero ball on Gary Payton, because there is no worse play. Maybe Alex Caruso. Like, I don't know if there's a worse player than Gary Payton for Jaylen Brown to try to score against. And especially because if he messes up, it creates a live ball turnover, and then, Golden State just goes and scores at the other end. And then especially with the shooters they have, it's 3 points more often than it's 2. So like that matchup is just horrible. Anytime Brown got Steph on him, though, he was getting to the rim. It's just like, why don't the Celtics understand how good, why doesn't anyone understand how good Gary Payton is? Like, just try to score on the other players. Like I felt like they did it at times, and maybe this is to your point, Clash, of like the inexperience, but some of the game, they seem to exploit mismatches very well. And then other points in the game, they just like lose all composure. Like, I don't really get it.
All right, Shrog's back.
Am I? You see me?
Official
Don't touch
foul.
anything.
I'm
Don't move at all.
I set the box. I'm looking at it this time, so I'll be able to even know when I drop. But I've informed the team, and we will be fixing it for the next show. Shouldn't be happening.
Look, Shrog's got his own team. Get him ready to go. I'm joking. I know where he is.
But it's so crazy because I honestly was just sitting there, and you're like, you fall in love with these threes. You're 5 for 5 coming out of the half. Everyone's got their fresh legs, and they're like, yes, we're going to hit all our threes. And then they just keep chucking them, and it's like, well, like, you could have pump fake and drove, and then you drive. When you do drive, Gary Payton's just ripping it, poking it out. It's like, And then I liked the fact that Tatum was posting up and attempting to really get there, but he doesn't have the legs right now. Like, he needs to try to do a little bit more bully ball action, and I think he's going to. And him missing those 2 free throws as they were really trying to make that comeback, and it's like, all right, there's something going on with that shoulder.
Yeah. No, there's no question. Like, when I would equate it to the way Luka looked last season. If you remember, he couldn't shoot foul shots in the playoffs, and it was a similar kind of injury. Like, it was a weird nerve-related thing. I think for Doncic, it was more in his back than his neck. But it was like an upper body, right arm kind of injury where, like, Doncic was shooting 50% at the foul line last year in the playoffs. And when you see a guy who normally is a really good free throw shooter not able to hit free throws, and not just down the stretch where it might be nerves, like the whole game, Tatum was missing him in the first quarters of this series too. Like, it's just there's no way that there's that shoulder, the neck, whatever the thing is, there's no way it's fully healthy right now. Like, there's just no way. You just look at him and he's hesitant, and then he's missing free throws, and I just think that's a really strong indicator. But I don't know, like, what are we supposed to even do with it? Like, they are still better despite that, honestly. Like, I really think that it's just they schematically just fall out of their game plan so often, and I don't really understand why.
It's because they don't have like a elite ball handling point guard. Derek White, sure.
Do the Warriors have one of those guys?
I mean, isn't Steph Curry one of those guys? And then
Steph Curry's not a point guard, though. Like, he never has the ball unless he's shooting.
Yeah, he's running around. Yes, that's correct. But like, just the way that their system is set up, it makes it so that they're able to get into their spots and get into their rotation. It's like when you call a play, like, it ends up basically the play is drive and kick. Like, that's honestly the entire premise of the Celtics offense at this point. There's no post up. And what I would like to see them make a real difference with is Robert Williams. I thought they found a little bit in that Miami series with the lobs. I thought that they need to go back to that. Maybe use him at the top of the key to set a pick and roll up or something. Like, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make these like forced special matchups to get guys off of it, and then what you're ending up is 8 seconds on the shot clock, and then you're dribble driving, trying to create a play, and then it's forced and it's way off. I think what they need to do, either put Rob in pick and roll, or just, if you're going to drive, just throw it up near the rim so that he can go get it, because I think that's the key to unlock their offense a little bit, because they don't have anything on the interior. If those like crazy Jenga style, let me move my arm wildly to make this insanely difficult layup.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't even think it's that complicated, though. It's basically like if they get the right isolation mismatch, they score basically at will. Like anytime Curry or Poole or even Clay to a lesser extent is the primary defender, the Celtics are getting a good shot because either a double has to come or they just beat that guy off the dribble. Like those three players can't really play defense. Curry, I think, is normally a pretty good defender, but he's had to do so much offensively in the playoffs that I think he's worn out on defense. And also, he's just so undersized compared to the Celtics guards. Like, it's just a huge mismatch with him. So, like, anytime Poole or Curry or Clay is the primary defender, they just go to the basket. And I think they have tons of success with it. It's almost like they forget they can do that at times. Like, sure, I agree. Getting Robert Williams more involved in the offense would help. But I don't even think it needs to be that complicated. Like, Brown can beat Curry off the dribble every time. Like, he's too strong for him. Smart can get in the post against Curry or Poole every time, basically. And also, Smart was doing it and drawing double teams, and that's a lot of what created all those open threes in the third quarter. So, like, they have it, really. Like, I don't think there's a massive adjustment that needs to be made. Just stop making mistakes. Like, it's so
stop
frustrating.
Turning the ball over, yeah.
Yeah,
stop
but,
turning the ball
but
over.
like, the turnovers are coming out of tactical errors. The tactical error primarily is driving right into Gary Payton. Just don't, like, they should not attempt
Right,
to
so stop giving Gary Payton credit for that. That's the Celtics' fault.
Right. Okay. Well, it's a part credit and part blame. Like, he's a great defender, but the Celtics deserve blame for not understanding that. And then,
right. And I put it more on that than giving the player credit.
Sure, that's fine. I agree with that. But then at the same time, like, the Celtics they played unbelievable defense on Steph Curry.
Yes.
I know he didn't shoot well, but the vast majority of those, like, he was not even close to open.
Not even close.
So, like, the defense almost like, okay, just do that again and just, don't make mistakes on offense and you're going to win 2 games in a row.
Really quick because we want to get some stuff that folks can get some action in on for Game 6, but I'm not going to let you off the hook without giving an explanation for Klay Thompson because
I don't even think he played that great.
I don't know about that. Klay Thompson, have you seen his numbers this NBA Finals in comparison to the other finals? He's averaging just about the same numbers.
He is, but he's also, like, he's drawing in less of the defense. It's so hard to quantify individual players sometimes because Steph Curry's impact can almost, like, you almost can't use the box score for it.
Yeah.
Like, Curry, just by being out there, even if he never touches the basketball, like you see when Draymond fakes the dribble handoff and just goes to the rim uncontested for a dunk, like, Steph Curry might as well get an assist on that play. Like, that play only exists because Curry's running around the perimeter. So, like, Klay is not having that effect is my point.
Yeah.
He used to. He doesn't get himself open enough. Like, you can basically just guard Klay with one guy and he never gets open unless there's a really good screen set for him. Or, well, there was one play in particular, I think, where, like, Tatum got beat by Curry and then Smart had to help and then you get a wide open 3. Like, most of Klay's points are coming off stuff like that.
And what we're finding out is Harrison Barnes to Kevin Durant, back down to Andrew Wiggins. They're all replaceable parts. That's what makes them so good, is that tandem, and probably it's more about Curry and then it's something about Thompson, but we've come to find out that they are replaceable parts to keep this ship keep the culture intact.
Well, maybe this will segue into a betting market for MVP, but if there's anything I will admit to being wrong about with the Warriors, it's not Klay. Like, I still feel pretty strongly about all my Klay takes. I think we all probably underrated the Andrew Wiggins effect and how well he played in the Dallas series, and we kind of just didn't assume it was going to translate. But clearly, he's been unbelievable in the playoffs, and I think us and all Celtics fans and maybe almost all basketball analysts have overlooked Andrew Wiggins because he was the best player in last night's game by a mile.
Yes.
I mean,
is he worth a look at plus 1,400 for MVP?
No.
that ability to rebound, like, to show that, and, like, hey, and honestly, like, growing up, you don't think about, oh, hey, defense and rebounding is, like, this big key. Like, the sexy part is, 3-pointers and dunks and splash plays and that type of stuff. But, like, when you go back and you look at, like, the times where Curry stepped up and saw his numbers go up, like it's because players are rebounding more and they're initiating the offense, or they're just getting into the mix a little bit more, and that's like those are just championship level plays, and him to find that gear, it's honestly great to see because he's a number 1 overall pick, a former number 1 overall pick, and he has that length and strength there with it. So
he still can't
I've
shoot,
noticed
though.
that. Like, say what?
He still can't shoot, despite all. I agree with everything you just said, but he still can't make a jump shot.
Yeah, but it doesn't at this point. It doesn't really matter. Like, play to your
No,
strengths. He
that's
has that drive game.
Yeah, at least he's not like trying to be something he isn't and just camp
Yeah.
out there, which he did do in previous games in this series. And then I think he realized, if they're going to leave me this open, as Shrog said, I'll drive to the basket and do me. And he's taken advantage of that. And that's where I think the Celtics fall into this trap of, oh, well, you know, if Golden State is predicated on taking the threes, let's leave Wiggins open on the corner. Maybe he'll just take it to the rack. And that's what he did in last night's game.
Yeah. I think really what's happening, I think, just to give like an overall summary of this series, is the Celtics are able to get open threes for whoever they want. The Warriors are only able to get open threes for their bad 3-point shooters. But the Celtics' good 3-point shooters are not making them. Like, they're at least the last few games, they're just not going in. And the Warriors aren't making their threes either, but
Except Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like
Tatum is shooting 50% from 3 and 30% from 2.
Maybe it's Tatum's layups then. If we had to like really drill down on what's going on, like why can't Tatum make 2-pointers?
Because he's not trying to make 2-pointers. He's trying to get fouled, and that's
But
why.
also,
That's why Udoka's leadoff thought about why the Celtics melted down in the fourth quarter, at least the start of the fourth quarter, was because the first thing he said, which is him calling out his team, was, well, us getting involved with the officials was probably not our best moment. So and he did too, because he got the tech. So despite all of those things, I still think Tatum for MVP the odds keep changing because that's right. I forgot about that. You wanted to get in on that yesterday.
I still like it now. I think that's the best way to bet the series. I don't think the Celtics can win the series without Tatum winning MVP. Like, I think Brown is not in this anymore. He could have a 40-point game. Like, it's not literally impossible, but I think it's very, very unlikely Brown wins MVP.
But
I think he's made too many mistakes. Like, too many people have seen him make too many errors. And he's not even like, Tatum's averaging more points than him for the series now. Obviously, Tatum's passing is a big part of his success too. So, and the turnovers from Brown have just been like it's so memorable, the kinds of turnovers.
Correct. I would agree with that.
So, like, just for people who are watching from the eye test, like, Brown has really hurt the team a lot. So you could bet the Celtics plus 300 or 290 to win.
Well, I was just going to ask you that. It's not that drastic of a difference, right?
I still think I'd rather take the 350 on Tatum, though.
Is there any chance? And look, who votes again? Writers, right? NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any chance Curry wins the award, even if they lose the series in 7?
Not after last night's game. I would have said yes. I think we talked about this. I don't actually remember if we talked about it.
I don't. It's first. I remember talking about it. I've heard it elsewhere, but I actually never asked you guys. From a betting perspective, is there a chance? I mean, there's no value in betting Curry.
No,
at this point anymore.
You could
right?
just take the Warriors. Yeah, would. There was a chance before last night. There's no way now. There's no way Curry can win the award with the Celtics winning the series, given how he played yesterday. If he had scored 30 to 40 in every game and the Celtics won, then sure, it was possible. But no, I think I would say that there is a better chance that Andrew Wiggins wins Finals MVP than that chance is higher than the chance of Curry winning it in a Celtics victory. I think both those are close to zero, though.
Yeah. Question for you, I had, Matt. If you believe right now, this is like a weird hedging idea, but something to think about that can potentially like be bet on. Brendan, if you want to pull up the series final score market.
I love hedging ideas. That's my favorite topic.
Yeah. So let's say you think that the Warriors going to win this in 7.
Yep.
Does it make sense to put the Celtics also in this bet of Celtics to win it in 7, 4-3. For example, if you put $100 on the Warriors at plus 135 and you put $60 on the Celtics at plus 290, you still make a profit as long as the Warriors don't win Game 6. Is this
you realize what you're doing though? You understand what you're doing, right? You're betting.
I don't, and that's why I wanted to bring it up.
You're betting $160 that the Celtics win Game 6, and you're only making about $75. So instead of just betting the Celtics at minus 160 or 170 on the money line, you're instead betting the Celtics at minus 200. That's what you're doing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So don't do that. I actually like the Celtics in Game 6.
Just bet the Celtics money line.
Just bet minus 170. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
That's a really good way to look at it, because when I was looking at this, I was like, so pretty much what you're telling me is that like I can win if the Warriors win Game 7, I can win if the Celtics win Game 7. But
you might as well just bet the Celtics to win Game 6 then, because that's how it gets to Game 7. It's a cheaper bet. Yeah, that's what like people get so caught up in these. I understand what you're talking about, and I understand why people do it, because it feels like you found a loophole, but it's actually the opposite of a loophole. It really is.
Yeah.
Once you do the math, and that's why the math is so important, right? Because if these numbers instead of 290 and 135 were 390 and 235, then you would have found a loophole. It's just you actually have to do the calculation and see what numbers you're actually getting out of it. So that's why math is annoying, but like it's the most important thing.
And you did that right off the top of your head. I didn't cue you up. I didn't tell you that I was going to do this. So
I may or may not have already done this off. No, I've done this kind of thing a lot before. I didn't do this specific one in preparation. No, but I have done this kind of thing a lot before.
It's pretty cool to see, because $160 on the Celtics pays out $254, which pays out more than the $235 and $235 on $234 on, because you can only get one result. You can't get Warriors and Celtics to win in 7.
And the reason that's the case is because you're only paying the VIG once to just bet the Celtics. But if you're doing 2 bets to bet the Celtics, you're now paying the VIG twice.
Right.
It's doubling.
Even though it's plus money and it looks more attractive.
It looks more attractive, but you're actually doubling the rake. Yeah.
It's good stuff. Celtics team total is set at 106.5 on for Game 6. And I bring this up because I'm not going to go all trendy on you here, Meiselman, but I only ask because I'm going to go trendy over the last 2 games. Their offense has not showed up. Their offense has not showed up to its ceiling, except the third quarter of last night's game, ironically, which is why you said...
ironic. It's not ironic. I mean,
no, it's ironic because Golden State has been awesome in the third quarter.
No, I know. But we covered this, right? Like, the reason the Celtics were losing, that's why they had a good third quarter in Game 5. Whereas before that, it was...
Or it could have gone really sideways and they lose by 20.
Right, but that's generally not how it works.
With Golden State, it kind of is, though.
When they play bad teams, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so I'm saying from what we've seen.
But the Celtics were minus 2.5 going at halftime for the second half spread because they were down 12 points.
Which Golden State covered, which is insane.
Oh yeah, I did not bet that, but that would have been. I thought, the Celtics not covering the real spread was a burn. Not covering the second half was and they ended up losing by only a half because the Aaron Nesmith and Luke Cornett show at the end almost got it for them, but not quite.
Yeah.
Go Maine Celtics, baby. Go Maine Celtics. Which, by the way, are you both aware of the most insane stat or like the smelliest stat of this NBA Finals?
Oh, I'm aware. I don't want to. You can do it. I won't.
Folks at home, brace yourself. Maybe Shirag hasn't heard it.
Okay.
Luke Cornett has 5 points in the last 5 minutes of the first 5 games. 2 more than Jason Tatum.
Oh, that's a burn. Honestly, that's a burn.
Yeah, it stinks if you are a Celtics supporter. So, yeah, that hurts.
I'm glad that you've.
This is also the guy who Meiselman still thinks there's value to bet for MVP.
Yeah, yeah. That's true.
Wrong, sorry.
No, it's just funny. It's like you use a very inclusive term, Celtics supporters, because definitely not a fan over here.
In various ways, we're all Celtics supporters.
Yes, from a betting standpoint, we all liked Boston coming into the series.
Yeah, and also betting and fandom, and then just like city affiliation due to like location on the map.
What would have been better for us is if we had a show where if the Celtics won, we could really actually spend some time on the Golden State hedge angle.
Yeah. We didn't do a show before Game 4, but that was that was the only time where I would have been even open to the idea. Although if the Celtics do win Game 6, I think then you can consider hedging for Game 7, depending how it goes. You can't hedge with the Warriors now if you've got Celtics futures. Yeah. It's just too expensive. Like, there are times where minus 400 makes sense, but I just don't think it does in this situation.
How do we feel about the total in the game? It's the same number as it. I think did it close at 211, or where did it close at last night?
211.5.
Yeah, okay. Now it's 210. I thought that the number was a little too high for last game, and I probably think it's a little too high again. And I also, most of the reason, it's not necessarily the trend of it getting later in the series, which I do think is somewhat valid. It's the increase in minutes for guys, and this is what we talked about yesterday too.
Yes.
It's the increase in minutes for guys who are more conducive to unders. Like less Peyton Pritchard, who hasn't played that well the last couple of games, less Jordan Poole because of the defensive deficiencies, and more Robert Williams, more Gary Payton, more Kevon Looney. So all of that is going to move you towards a lower scoring game. So for that reason, like, I think the total probably should be like a point or two lower than it is. But it makes sense it's dropping. Like, I don't know that there's value, but it does make sense that it's been getting progressively lower.
Are you
and
confident?
The last 2 games in a row have been under as well. I don't know how much of a trend you want to make of that, but I think both teams are getting to a fatigue point. Both teams are really trying hard defensively because they know this is it right here. You leave it all on the court.
What's the angle on Celtics? I mean, is it better to go? Because Meiselman, you think 5 to 6 makes sense.
Yeah.
Celtics first half lines at 2.5.
I mean, personally, I think I'd rather just lay the minus 165 on the money line, or 170 on the full game, right?
Yeah, 170.
We're looking at half right now.
Yeah, it's 170.
Yeah, I'll just, like, this is going to be a very brief explanation, but just like a theoretical point on betting a half versus a game is the half, if you have an edge on the game, like you think it's mispriced, like the Celtics are -4 and you think they should be hypothetically -8. When you're betting on a half, you're now reducing the window in half where the sample size is smaller, which means there's less time for your edge to actually occur. Like, we see this all the time where a good team is losing at halftime, but then over the span of 4 full quarters, they actually play the way they're supposed to, and then, they end up winning. Like, the shorter the window is, if the game were only 5 minutes long, the Pacers could beat the Warriors in a game because it's just such a short amount of time, anything could happen. So, like, when you bet the first half, I guess you could be buying into a trend, but it's also less time for the Celtics to actually figure out what they're doing. And I'm not going to say, like, I don't believe the third quarter trend ultimately. I just don't think it makes that much of a difference. So, like, I could see the Celtics being down 5 at halftime and winning by 5. Like, that would not be a shocking outcome. So I don't want to bet the first half. Ultimately, I think laying the 4 is fine. I think laying the minus 170 on the money line for the game is fine. Or I think just betting the series line is also fine. Whether you do that through Jason Tatum or not, but I think this line's pretty close to fair. I just think the Celtics are slightly undervalued for the game.
But your point being is the best value you can get if you like the Celtics to come back is to take Tatum MVP because you get the better number.
Yeah, because I think Brown is a little overvalued by the market. I mean, I've been saying that throughout the series, right? Like, the number's been fluctuating, but you guys were higher. I had to give you credit after, I think it was game 3 where Brown played really well and his MVP odds looked really good. But overall, my theme for this series has been Tatum's not getting enough credit for his passing. Brown's been getting too much credit. And when it comes down to voting, in the hopeful scenario where the Celtics win it, I don't think too many people are going to want to give it to Brown. Like, I just don't think he has much of a chance to win the award. So, yeah, I still think that the best way to bet the Celtics for the series is just bet Tatum MVP.
Yeah. I mean,
Matt, I have a question for you. If you hold a Celtics future, as you've mentioned millions
hypothetically,
of times,
if you hold a Celtics future.
Yeah, this is good. This is how we can close the show because
Okay.
that is the case here for definitely both of you, I'm sure.
I don't have a Celtics championship future now.
Okay.
For our viewers out there, people that are watching, listening, potentially having it, I'm sure a lot of people in the Boston area even have a Celtics future. is there a scenario in which you hedge, and what would be the strategy if the Celtics pull out Game 6?
Okay, so the hedging conversation can be a long one, and we don't have a ton of time. So I'll give like the short answer of it, just like what you would consider and how much money you stand to make, and then also how much money you have are very important considerations. Like if you're flat broke and you can make like $1 million if the Celtics win the championship, like for the love of God, just bet the Warriors -400 for like some amount of money so you don't end up staying like. If the money is so important that you need to come away with some profit, it's more like it makes sense to take a bad bet as a hedge. But if you're someone who bets a lot, or just this bet's not for a lot of money, either of those or both of them, like if it's not that important to you financially that your Celtics bet wins, then you ultimately just want to make whatever the best value play is, like whatever the best value decision is. And for people in that scenario, I don't know what percentage of listeners would be in that scenario, but for those people, I don't think hedging makes any sense, because I think the Warriors at -400 is terrible odds right now. I think the line should be somewhere in the 200 to 250 range, and it's just way more expensive than it should be to bet Golden State. So like it really depends how much you need the money, honestly. Like that's really my answer for hedging is, do you need the money? Okay, let's figure out hedging from there. But if the Celtics win Game 6, it's more reasonable to hedge. I'll kind of end with that, because obviously in a Game 7, the Warriors are going to be much smaller favorites than they are to win the series right now.
Cool.
We had to end, so you guys don't say anything. That's then we can get off camera.
Cool. Hey, good stuff. I'm glad we got to do it. It's hard when you do these shows the day after a game, because all you want to do is react, and that's cool, but we want to serve a purpose too. We got to move forward here, so that's good.
We got a couple days to cover Showdown too. We don't have to worry about it. What do we have? 50-something hours till this game still? It's very, very annoying and very stressful.
Yes, that is the case. So Game 6 Thursday. I'm sure Koff's on Thursday. We'll spend some time on the game Thursday. So, be ready for that. He might be ready to cry by Thursday too. So we might have to have like a Zoom or something, some sort of gathering after, and just sob as a unit here. Anyway,
pour one out for the Celtics, huh?
Yeah, or see it Game 7 and then the parade. That's still part of the plan.
That's still the plan, to see you guys all at the parade.
Okay.
Yes, I actually want that to happen just for that reason.
All right, thanks.
I don't want the
Dave.
Celtics to.
And we lost Chirag. Perfect. That's a great way to say see you the heck later. Thanks to Eamon. Thanks to Daniel. Chirag now is gone. Matt Meiselman, thanks to you as well. Brendan Glasheen. We'll join you tomorrow. The Sweats at 11 and the Slate tomorrow night at 5 Eastern. We'll see you.